next old business is congestion pricing. Of course, we all know what's happening there. MTA is going to start, of course, on June 30th. Maliatakis and Gottheimer is having a bill before the Congress trying to have this law basically abolished, but unfortunately sitting committee as we speak. We don't know what's going to happen, okay? But most likely they won't make it in time, deadline-wise. Okay, so unfortunately congestion pricing is going to happen, and we'll see what happens afterwards. Yes, and Tom.
Are these lawsuits going to slow it down, or it's going to start,
Well, those lawsuits been bought off by MTA. Okay, some of them. He's basically making deals with them already. Okay. Yes.
Okay, tomorrow they have another hearing on it. Tomorrow the judge from the civil part that we just mentioned. Tomorrow they're going to have another hearing on it.
Okay. Do you know which one they're having hearing on? Because there are 4 lawsuits. Yeah.
It's about it's not sure where, but it will be somewhere in New York. It's Manhattan. I'm not sure where, but that's what I heard. So I just want to let you know, it's not definite yet. But it might, if the judge doesn't find it, and if he for the people, it won't go through. So I'm praying to God it doesn't go through.
We are all praying to God. But certainly our club will keep you up to date on what's happening. Let's see, next item, okay, we'll go into some announcements, okay, well, we have one, let's see, I guess Bernard, you want to talk about announcements about needing volunteers?
Hi everyone, Bernard Chow again. Well, I am helping out Yating Chu on her campaign. And she is already got the Republican on the Republican line for the ballot already. Now we are working on the Common Sense line, Common Sense Party also. And for doing petition on that, anyone who's registered to vote in the district can sign the petition. Yes.
I have petitions. Do you have petitions for her?
Are you a petition for her?
Petitions for her right here.
In that case, anyone who think that or is in her district, please go to that gentleman and sign the petition. Okay, and we can use a lot because we know that the other side is going to kick it as hard as they can. So let's give them some work. All right, and on top of that, we also need volunteers to be on the street to do petition. It's just a way of bringing out the message that we do not like what's happening in New York right now. So it's very important that we come out and speak against that. Her platform is on close the border. Her platform is on quality education. She has been on the education issues for more than 7 years already, constantly on it. Whatever party it is, it means she cares. And she has been fighting for different issues for a very long time already. It's not just someone who just pop up and won the camera. So help her out. Anyone who can be volunteering or anyone who can be willing to do some petitioning, please come to me and then talk to me in person. Thank you.
where's she running it?
Thank you very much.
She's in Toby Stavinsky's district.
Yeah, she's running against Toby Sawinski. She already announced that she's going to vote for
I
Trump.
hear rumors she's a Democrat, didn't
Yeah.
vote for Trump, she
She's-
voted for Hillary Clinton.
I do not know her voting
Hillary.
history.
Sorry, rumors.
Well, I do not know the.
Just means GOP, and of course George Stein's holding her petitions. He's a traitor. That's why he's gone.
Could you act like a mature adult for the meeting?
I do not know her voting history, but I already got I heard from her that she's going to vote for Trump.
She voted for Hillary Clinton, the deplorables.
She was a registered Democrat.
Against Donald Trump. She voted for Joseph Biden.
Thank you for the history.
She's a never Trump.
She already announced that she's going to vote for Trump.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And she was a Democrat, and she has switched to Republican. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Stephen Wang, you also want to make some announcements, some notes? Stephen? You say you want to say something? Not now? Okay. Not now, okay. We'll have one more announcement before we get to the candidates, okay? Okay. Let's see. Jeremiah, would you like to talk about your campaign? Okay. Now, our clubs seem to host a lot of presidential campaigns from different countries here. We have one from the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. We have one that's today, Jeremiah, who's running for president in Namibia.
Jeremiah. But you're just going to talk for a minute. Everybody knows Jeremiah. Who knows Jeremiah?
I know.
Jeremiah has been talking for the last 4 years or so about running for the president of Namibia. And we were in the car today. I'm going to help him write up a platform. And it was very interesting to speak with him in the car because he basically said that Namibia has bad feelings about America, some of the citizens, right? Yeah. But he's an America First guy, and he wants to make sure that everybody in Namibia knows that America is a good country. Am I wrong? 100%. And he also is an anti-CCP candidate. He thinks that, right. He thinks that the CCP is moving in on Namibia and making trouble for his country. So he's going to work on getting petitions. And I just wanted to introduce him and say he's a really great guy. He's helped out a lot of candidates. He's out there now petitioning for U10 Chu, right? And thank you, Jeremiah, and say hello. Thank you.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Jeremiah, as you heard, and I'm ready to take up the fight, and I have a very high possibility of winning the election. And the only thing that I'm faced with is just to get on the ballot. Most of the point that he mentioned, that's true. I'm anti-CCP. I'm more on the American system, and Namibia itself as a country is a diverse society country. We have many different tribes. So the system that will work is the one that is being used here in America, federalizations. So that's the way I'm thinking of, and I'm not against any Americans. I rather work with America than work with any other country because I've been here, and I know America and these other countries, so I rather work with the enemy I know than start a new one. That's what I think. So I'm ready to work with that. And when it comes in terms of other community, Jewish community and any of that, I don't have any problem working with any of great communities, and especially the Jewish community. My great-grandfather or our ancestors were really willing to work with the Jewish community. And it's just because of the new government that we have at the moment that started creating tribalism among our tribe and trying to make sure they just let one tribe control everything. So that's the least I can say. So thanks everybody.
And we'll be updating Jeremiah's progress at this club because that's where he hangs out. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so without further ado, let me go to the main speaker tonight. Let me introduce Anna Champeny. Champeny or Champeny? Champeny. Now, anyone who is, she spoke at our club last year about the city budget. I mean, she is extremely detailed, very dynamic. She knows everything that's in and out of it. Please use her. She is nobody who is as honest in telling you what's going on, and she certainly does. So I want her back for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to let her take care of basically the discussions, ask her whatever questions you want, and then after her, then we'll go to the other candidates who are here tonight. Okay.
Well, thank you. Is this one on or? Yeah. So I don't know if I have enough. I printed about 35, so maybe some folks can share or. So thank you. So thank you for having me again. I am from the Citizens Budget Commission. The Citizens Budget Commission is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank and advocacy organization. We've been, this is our 92nd year, and our primary focus initially was on New York City. And then in 1985, we expanded and started covering New York State as well, and always the MTA. We do research on city and state budget and fiscal policy, on policies like housing and medical and health. So based on what I had gotten, I have some thoughts that I wanted to share, sort of both about the city, the state budget, and some context more generally. So from our point of view, the city and the state are really at an inflection point. The first slide here is we've been experiencing population decline. This started before COVID, roughly in about 2017. We started to see a net loss. More people were leaving than were coming in. This accelerated during the pandemic. So we had record decreases in population in 2021 and 2022. The rate is slowing, but we still have more New Yorkers leaving than people coming in. And that makes us concerned. What is it about sort of New York City, New York State that makes us not an attractive place to live? So the other piece, so we recently did a feedback survey of New York City residents. Maybe someone here got one. We sent out 125,000 paper surveys, got responses from about 6,600 New Yorkers. So that is, for a paper survey in New York City, a very good response rate. And one of our questions that we asked, we did this also in 2017, we asked, do you plan to stay in New York City in the next 5 years? Might you move to another state, move out of the city but stay in New York State, or do you not know? You're not sure. So in 2017, about 58% of New Yorkers responded that they wanted to stay in the city. This time we were down to 50%. Most of that decrease in 8% went to the leave New York for another state. And that really makes us concerned. It kind of validates what we've been seeing on the migration data, that we're losing population. And it makes us wonder, what is it about our value proposition, about wanting to be in New York, that is sort of out of alignment? We also on the survey asked about, what do you think about quality of life in the city? What about your neighborhood? How do you feel about public safety? How do you feel about street cleanliness? Lots of questions. All of the results are up on our website. The link is on this, so you can go and explore. But across the board, we have seen declines in satisfaction. So when we asked in 2017, and we asked again in 2023, by and large, fewer New Yorkers were rating services in New York City as very good, or as good or excellent. So for example, here we have, they're kind of hard to see, which is why I put the website up there. If you look at quality of life, so overall, how do you feel? In 2017, 51% said they were very satisfied. In 23, that's down to less than 30%. So a real decrease, and makes us wonder why. Similarly, how do people feel about public safety? New York City is still a very safe city, especially compared to other large cities. But the general sense on questions like this, questions about how safe do you feel on the subway at night, etc., people are not feeling as safe as they were. And that is a very big concern for whether or not folks want to stay in New York. We asked other questions too, so I'd encourage you to go take a look at the data. There's also questions about, what do you think about how we spend tax dollars? Now, even in 2017, people weren't really excited about this. Only about 20% thought the city did a good job spending tax dollars. It was down to about 10% this time. And part of the concern is spending has grown since then. So if you look back in 2021, you compare New York State and all of its local governments, the states, the counties, school districts, and you compare it to the other states in the country, we collect more taxes than anyone else. New York local and state governments collect 10,331 taxes per capita, higher than all the other states, and we are only second highest in spending. We're like $10 behind Alaska. So this is, from our point of view, concerning. We are high spending, high taxing, and there's a concern that our value proposition, what those tax dollars are buying, is not good enough for people to keep staying. So we're concerned about outmigration. So that's sort of some of the context that we bring to our budget analysis. So first, New York State enacted its budget. We still don't have financial tables. So they passed the bills, and there's like 10 or 14 bills that get passed to enact the New York State budget. Very complicated. But what you want is a simple table. One page, how much revenue from different sources, what are you going to spend it each year, are you in balance? They don't publish that for about a month. It's a real concern for transparency. We don't know what the budget is exactly. The legislators didn't really all know when they voted. But what we do know based on the executive budget that the governor put forth is the spending is going to continue to grow. There are a few lines here, it's a little hard to see, but we think the enacted budget is a little bit above the dark blue, which is what the governor proposed. But you can see, it started growing rapidly during COVID and continues at a pretty high clip. There are two really big drivers for the state budget. One is the Medicaid program. Projected to grow more than 7% a year between 25 and 28 in the executive budget. But that included a number of cost-cutting proposals that the governor put forth, which were pretty much rejected. So the growth rate will likely be larger once we see those financial plan tables. The second largest is education aid, the money that the state sends to all the school districts, New York City included. That is projected to grow about 4% a year on average. She similarly had some proposals to reduce that were also rejected. So the two biggest areas of spending are growing rapidly. They're growing faster than inflation. They're growing faster than tax revenues. And we aren't figuring out how to get that under control. The other piece that's a real concern to us about the state budget is what we call a structural gap. It's not about whether you're in balance in any one year. It's on a recurring basis. When you take out any one-time resources, are you paying for your expenses? Can you pay for your current year expenses with current year revenues? You know, it's a pretty simple question. The state has a structural gap. You don't actually see it until about 2028 because they had some really good years during COVID. Personal income tax came in strong when Wall Street was doing well. There was a lot of federal aid that provided some fiscal relief. They pushed some of that money out. They prepaid expenses, so they have temporary tax increases that are supposed to expire. If all of this sort of temporary money goes away, you're facing a budget gap of about $16 billion. Our point of view is you need to start the spending reduction and slow the growth now so that when you get to 2028, you're not facing some massive need to cut. So that's sort of what I have on the state. I'm just going to switch gears to the city. New York City still hasn't, we're still in the executive budget. We don't have an adopted budget yet. They're going to wrap up council hearings next week. So the budget as proposed by Mayor Adams is just under $115 billion. This includes $4 billion of surplus revenue. So in New York City, if there's a surplus at the end of the year, they will prepay the expenses for the next year. It's kind of like, oh, I have extra money in December, I'm going to pay my January rent early. They do this every year. So it's just a way that they manage the resources. So tax revenues are about $77 billion, 2/3. The largest chunk is property tax, which we are all very familiar with. But the city has a very diverse tax stream. So we're collecting income tax, business tax, sales tax, all of these revenue streams. There is a significant amount of state aid. They have actually stepped up and provided a good amount of money to the city for asylum seeker costs. So that is another slice. And then we have the money from the federal government, the sort of ongoing recurring federal money. We're pretty much using up all of our COVID aid at this point. What does the city spend its money on? About half of the city's spending goes to employees that work for the city. The wages, the pension contributions, their health benefits. There's a small slice that goes for this Medicaid program, another slice that pays debt service on our long-term debt for capital investment. And then there's this big slice called All Other. It includes contractual services. And that's important. So the nonprofits who provide social services to New Yorkers under contract are not city employees. They're in this slice of contractual services. And this one has gotten larger over time because we're providing more services, all the asylum seeker services and other things through contracted providers. So the next slide, we're now on 9, looks at tax revenue. So The city has revised its tax revenue forecast. There hasn't been any change in tax policy, but the economy is doing better than they thought, so they think they're going to have a little bit more revenue than they initially expected. But at this point, taxes are growing about 3% a year. Property tax, 2.4%. There's a lot of weakness in commercial real estate, so we don't have the strength of property tax revenue we used to have. Non-property taxes like personal income, business income are a little stronger at 3.5%. The problem is that spending is projected to grow at 3.8% a year. So you're not keeping up. It's like, what if your expenses were growing 4% a year, but you only thought you'd get a 2 or 2.5% raise? You know, you're going to have to figure out how to make that work. I also want to point out that right now, from fiscal year 24 to next year 25, the city is expecting to increase spending by 6%. So that's a big year-over-year jump in spending. This is on the city funded. Now, even all of these numbers, we're still actually concerned that the budgeted spending is not accurate. When we looked at the budget in January, we had the preliminary budget, we did a close analysis, we found that there was roughly $3.6 billion of current programs that we were offering in fiscal year 24 that everyone expects are going to continue that don't have budgeting next year. There was a housing voucher program. We're spending $800 million a year on housing vouchers, but our budget was like $100 million. They addressed some of this in the executive budget. So now we only have a $2.2 billion shortfall. But the issue still is, even this budget, which is balanced and which is growing 6.3%, is still not fully funding the current level of services. So we have advocated significantly to be a lot more transparent about this so that we can make the choices. You know, if we do have to cut a service, we should all know how much and which services and get to participate in that discussion. I think one other thing I wanted to talk about on the city budget is there was a lot of, the mayor did 2 rounds of what are called Paeks, programs to eliminate the gap. They're essentially asking agencies to identify savings to reduce their spending. There was a lot of concern that those were very aggressive, that agencies were going to end services, and also that they weren't necessary. So they were necessary because if we hadn't done them, we would not have a balanced budget. That is part of how we balanced the budget. The savings are about $2.4 billion a year, so we'd have a $2.4 billion gap next year. And by law, New York City has to have a balanced budget. The other thing, when we look through and we go very closely line by line on each of the initiatives, most of them don't affect services. They're eliminating some vacancies. They're re-estimating spending on a lease or on some other non-service provision. Our estimate, 11% of the cuts affect services, the 89 don't. Sometimes they're creative and they can get the federal government to pay more. It's just a wash. It's not like we're reducing anything. We're just finding another funding source for it. And there was also a lot of talk about restorations. So they did make restorations. They restored most of the police classes that they were going to cut. They restored some fundings for the culturals. They restored some fundings at the Department of Education. But it's important to know that restoration is only 7.5% of the total PEG that was originally proposed, so the total reductions. So not a lot of it was reduced or was restored, and most of it is not stuff that's really affecting the services. But it is necessary in order to balance your budget. Everyone does this at home. Is there a cheaper way I can buy this? Should I buy this in bulk? Do I go to a different store? We all have to figure out how to, make our dollars stretch further, and the city has to as well. So my last slide is really, budget gaps. We're in balance this year. If we add these risks that we've identified about under budgeting, we're probably at about a $2.4 billion gap. That's not insurmountable for New York City. They have reserves in their budget. There's a lot of changes during the course of the year. The out years are bigger. We're looking not at the 5.4 that the mayor says and is in the budget, but closer to, $8.5 billion. But the real concern from our point of view is that there are other mandates and requirements on the city that could make those even larger. And there are two that I want to talk about. One is the class size mandate. So Albany passed a law a couple of years ago that's going to require the city to reduce class sizes. Sounds like a good idea. It's a hard cap. You can't have more than 20 students in a kindergarten class. So in theory, if student 21 shows up at a school, you now need to have 2 kindergarten classes. The concern is, there are a few reasons we thought this wasn't a great idea. One is the literature on whether or not smaller class sizes are very good for achievement and improve outcomes is inconclusive and talks about the fact that A, you need significant decreases in headcount in the class size. You need a good teacher. So it matters if the teacher at the front of that class is experienced or not and good at doing her job or his job. And it also benefits more for students with greater needs. So it depends on where you reduce the class size. And a cap across the board, across all of New York City schools, may not be efficient. And that's what the analysis that the city and the Independent Budget Office and others have done show. Where do we have crowded classes and overcrowded schools? These are more often high-performing schools that parents want their kids to go to, and we don't enforce enrollment caps because that's where parents want their kids and that's where the kids want to be. So are we really going to spend billions of dollars a year to reduce class sizes at Stuyvesant? How is that really going to help? And so that's our concern, that what you really need to do is funnel the resources and figure out how to get our schools to work better and to provide better education. That's a long-winded explanation for a line that it would cost about $1.4 billion to bring on all those new teachers we would need to staff these new classrooms if we're in full compliance. Where you're going to find them? Lots of questions. The other is the city FEPS program. FEPS is Family Homeless Eviction Prevention Services, I think. It's a housing voucher program that the city provides. And currently it is for individuals in homeless shelters or families in homeless shelters to be eligible for the voucher, and they can identify and find an apartment. As I said, this is the voucher program costing almost $800 million a year. Most local governments don't provide housing vouchers. It's typically a state or in most cases federal program. The city council enacted an eligibility expansion, so you would be eligible for a voucher even if you weren't in shelter. They increased the income. The desire to provide and help folks with housing in New York City is very well-meaning. Housing is incredibly expensive and has gotten more so. But this eligibility expansion would broaden the universe of households to something like 720,000 households in New York City could be eligible for a voucher. This is really, first of all, we don't have enough housing. There's a question of what happens in the rental market, but it's very expensive. There are a lot of different estimates, but we could be looking at $4 to $5 billion a year on vouchers. The mayor has refused to implement it. Legal Aid has instigated a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit on behalf of some individuals who could be eligible. So we're watching this closely, but we're just very concerned about these fiscal risks onto the city and how we could pay for them if they need to be funded, because they are not in the budget at the moment. So I'm going to conclude. It's not a slide, but there are risks. There's a lack of transparency in the budget. There is more that we could all know that would be really helpful. The budgets are precarious, but I think we also need to remember that New York City, its dynamism, its creativity. We've come out of situations in the past, and I think we can, from our point of view, we got to prioritize, focus on the basics to deliver services effectively. And that's been sort of our mantra. I'm happy to take questions about anything I talked about or anything more generally. So I don't know names, so maybe if we start with the man in the red shirt, the gray shirt, and then...
I just want to say I have a great sense of admiration for you. There are a few people in this city that bring out the truth like you do, and thank you for coming tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, to the nuts and bolts of the budget, you're looking at multiple city agencies that have people leaving like crazy. 7,000 bodies short on the police department, 4,000 bodies short on the fire department. And more people are leaving each day, and their own agencies say with the amount of people coming into the classroom, sanitation department, we go down the list, this is a never-ending pit, and it takes time to get people involved. A real issue that gets ignored when we're talking about housing in the city of New York, the number one landlord is New York City. New York City has more tenants than any individual owner in this city. And New York City Housing Authority has more tenants behind on their rent in multiple years. And it's a tremendous challenge here in front of us. But I am proud of everybody in this room being committed to try to improve our city. And God bless you for the person you are, young lady.
Thank you. But you are right about public housing. Their rent collection rate has fallen, and it's something that we've pointed to. They get a lot of federal money, but not enough. And so they become increasingly reliant on subsidies from city government. But that in and of itself is not a sustainable solution, and we need to figure out how you...
If you go to their parking lots, I know my specialty in life is being around housing projects, because that's where the most active supermarkets are. When that card hits twice a month, those supermarkets go crazy. Take a look at the cars in those parking lots. Most of them are better than mine. You cannot conceive how many sublets are going on in each of these facilities, many of them by people that have warrants. They're criminals in waiting in our city. But once again, God bless you.
Yes.
Miss, the state was saying for years they were going to get tremendous revenue from gambling, sports gambling. You got any projections from your studies yet?
I don't know offhand. I can look that up and let Daniel know, and he can pass that on, but I don't know offhand. I mean, it has been successful from what I understand. I just don't know the full amount. Some portion of it is dedicated to specific streams, but I'll definitely get the information. I think we were going back there, and maybe I'll let...
You said something about the difficulty of getting numbers from Albany about what's really going on with the state government. Mm-hmm. You are, I'm sure, are familiar with the federal monthly statement of revenues and expenditures. It comes out about the 8th of every month. Do you know if anybody has ever tried to get the same thing done by the state or by the city?
It's a good question. The state does release monthly revenue numbers and a cash collections report. I think they probably do on expenses too. I've always focused more on the revenue side, but this comes from the state comptroller's office, typically around the 15th of the month. So there should have been one yesterday, and it will, and the city does as well. So,
but it doesn't include expenditures?
I think that might be a separate one. They do, on the expenditure side, they do quarterly updates to their financial plan. So the financial plan is not just current year, it's the budget and the out years, so it's really a longer term look. But they probably are reporting on spending on a regular, like on a monthly basis. The city comptroller has an interface called Checkbook, and you can go and actually download spending like through yesterday. For all the city agencies. So they've done a lot to increase transparency. I don't know what... No, I think... Thank you.
Every year, there's a whole staff of lawyers defending the city because people are suing the city for discrimination, for tripping on a sidewalk, for this, for that, you name it. There's a specialty of lawyers suing the city. What can you tell us about the city budget that's allocated for the payouts of these various lawsuits that come down every year? I'd like to know if that's allocated into the budget.
There is a line, hold on, I can pull this up, see. They're called judgments and claims. So yes, there is a payment every, in the budget for that. It used to be $700, but I believe it's getting closer to the $1 billion mark. It does go up and down. There's a whole set of claims that are about sort of the trip and fall, the vehicle collisions, property damage, that are pretty routine. There's been an effort, especially by the city controller, to really control those and to try to bring those down. They've been doing a lot of stuff on fleet safety so that we don't, run into things. And then you also have sort of larger cases. Sometimes they take years or decades to solve that can have very significant cost impacts. There was a couple from the teachers recently. But yeah, it's roughly around $1 billion a year. And you're right. The question is also one on accountability. How do you, because this is paid for centrally, it's not in an agency budget. If they're getting sued a lot, it doesn't necessarily impact them. So that is a challenge in terms of bringing these numbers down.
It's 1% of the city budget.
One? Oh,
$1 billion.
it's 115. So yeah, it's a little up, but yes, we'll go that way. So.
I once asked the New York State Lottery for their annual report, and they never sent it to me, so I'm gonna ask you, how much money really goes to New York City education? Does it really go to New York City education? A gigantic amount of money is spent on buying lottery tickets, and where is it going?
They're all great questions. Now I'm starting to feel woefully unprepared. It does, some portion of it does go to education without a doubt. We were looking at this recently because we were trying to, think about the casinos and sort of what's the potential impact. So what I quickly find from the Gaming Commission, it's not detailed, it's about the total revenue from the lottery is about 8 to 9 billion, and about 3 to 4 billion goes to education statewide. But part of what we were thinking and when we were looking at this is, if you have, so I think there's been, if people were doing lottery, there's a sort of a finite pool of people who are going to be gambling, and we now have mobile betting too, so maybe some aren't buying tickets, they're doing this. If we have more casinos, is this a pie that's going to get bigger, or are we just going to move the money around? The new casino money from the 3 casinos that are coming is not going to education. It's earmarked for the counties and the MTA.
So the city gets about $4 billion out of this every year.
It goes into, well, that's what goes into education statewide. I'm not sure what the city piece is. I'm trying to remember. The city gets roughly, it's a large chunk, probably over 50% of the state education aid comes to the city. It's the biggest district. I mean, I can write these all down and then do my homework.
Yeah, actually, I'm writing some of them down as well, so at least I can put it on the club's website. Next question. You pick whoever you like to speak with.
You've been asking for a while. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for being here. It's really insightful with all the answers and the presentation. I have 2 questions for you. My first being on page 1, you see these population numbers. I would like to know if the illegal migrants are being factored into the population surplus of these numbers.
That is a good question. We are not sure that they are. At this point, are not fully, given the numbers only go out to 2023, and it's not, these are an annual population estimate that the census does, where they look at in-migration, out-migration, births and deaths. I don't know how well they're capturing it. So what we might have to do is wait for the census when they're, actually doing surveys, and they do the census when it does its American Community Survey. Surveys also at group quarters, so they would be surveying at the different shelters and facilities. So I think a lot of people put these 2 numbers together and try to make sense of them. It's hard to get, there actually is, conflicting information about how much people have, what are the, sort of how big is the out migration, how small, because it's hard to measure all of it. And when you have different estimates from different places, they don't reconcile, and then that creates a lot of confusion. but I don't think it fully reflects it yet, especially because this is through 23.
Okay, thank you for that. And my next question, on page 4, the New York City executive budget, where can we find the leeches taking our money from? I'm assuming it's going to be the green portion of the pie on the right, but I would like to know where the migrants are getting subsidized.
The spending on asylum seekers is largely in that all other pie. You are correct.
Thank you very much.
Sure. We can go. I guess we'll finish that. So, gentleman with the red hat.
Thank you, and thank you again for being here. The city definitely knows how many people are coming in daily because they're housing them. So that number should be readily available.
Yeah, I mean, the city knows how many folks are coming into the shelters. They don't all stay. You don't know how many. Some portion have left. They've told us something like 140 had come through the city. 65, 70,000 were still in care. But the question when you're thinking about population is figuring out of those people how many have stayed and you would consider a resident. And these are not city data, these are the federal government data, and they're not on the ground in the same way. And they collect it differently, so that's why I think it's not a full reflection of it.
And sort of to further clarify, if you check the New York City websites on asylum seekers, there's no data on how many people come in or left. But on COVID, you have all these daily numbers.
Where were you at?
Jets?
Yeah, as far as the net exodus of people leaving New York, like this gentleman said, no one's counting the migrants. And if they're going to do every 10 years they do a census, the migrants don't want to be counted because they're afraid. Number 2, the traffic on the highways doesn't represent an exodus. Traffic has been worse than ever. And number 3, my last point is going to be Mayor Adams says crime is down. Well, arrests are down. Cops don't want to make arrests, so it's showing up in the statistics as crime is down when it really isn't.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Lady in the sweater.
Hi, so I'm a substitute para for the schools, and you brought up the schools lawsuits, and I was wondering about the one where, as a sub-para, and I worked in 2021 when all of the paras in my school were not there. I was the only one in my school. And I wasn't entitled to COVID money. Like if I got, quote, COVID, everybody else got 14 days off, I wasn't entitled to it. Then I learned I was entitled, and the schools denied me. So did you hear about that lawsuit at all?
I did not.
Yeah, that's the one I'm following.
Okay.
I want my money.
I can understand.
You deserve it.
Danny, Bill, Vic.
Thank you, and great job on your report. I have 2 phases. One's a question, one's a statement.
Okay.
Under de Blasio Thrive New York, $400 million was appropriated up until this year for the homeless. Now we have our great mayor with his City of Yes housing opportunity squeezing people for money. But the spider web here is that to the tune of $185,000, an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit, where people are now being bribed, let's say entrapped, in renovating their garages, basements, and attics to move in people in low-density neighborhoods such as ours. They want to deregulate the zones, and what these people don't realize, and what the mayor doesn't tell everybody in their fancy slideshows, is that when they're giving you $185,000 to renovate your basement, you are now signing a contract, and the mayor's going to hand off all these people that aren't paying in the city housing venues to landowners back in the boroughs. And It's a very big thing, and a lot of people are not aware of it, and they're glazing over it, and the community boards are against it highly, but there's a few choice groups of politicians and people on the boards or the common sense caucus that could blow everybody out of the way by their votes. So it's a very dangerous situation in the city of Yes business.
Yeah.
And where did the money go? That's what I want to know.
I don't know where the Thrive money went. I will say,
Blasio got it.
I understand that that housing and development is a very charged issue. It's a charged issue in many neighborhoods in the city, but the reality is part of the city's success and competitiveness in the future is about growth. We have, so, you know, I don't know the particulars about the ADUs, but I think using and making those units legal, safe, you know, when we hear cases where people die in these units because they aren't proper, they don't have the right egress, we have the flooding, you know, those are horrific situations. And so I think, you know, we have to figure out how we can balance local needs, balance what the neighborhoods want, but also be open to growing. Growth is what is going to help us be successful in the future. Other places are growing. New Jersey's building housing. Connecticut.
One more question.
But the building department is down 1/3 of its workforce.
Yes.
So before you do any of this, you have to get inspectors. There is no more affordable housing because the cost of materials have quadrupled. And, you know, it all looks good on paper, but it's not a reality-based subject. And if they kill our zones, then the developers could run over us and just make the billions of dollars. And my neighborhood wants to sell his house for $3 million to put a 20-unit on a 100 by 100, which could happen. Then people who worked 40 years to buy their house and pay it off are screwed.
As I said, we have to figure out how to balance it, and you are right about the city's headcount. Headcount went down a lot during COVID. The city's hiring processes are incredibly bureaucratic. It takes months to get on board. You know, we've pushed them to be more flexible to try to speed this up, especially in departments like buildings, law. There are certain places where the vacancies are much higher. You want to go in the back?
Rick?
Well, first, I do agree with what you had said about housing. I'm against overdevelopment. I'm against upzoning. So, you had said before that surveys have shown that people think in 2023 that things are worse than in 2017. De Blasio was the worst mayor the city ever had. And I'm never going to vote for Adams, but he is better than de Blasio. I'm noticing in the last year or so, I am noticing more cops on the subways. They have not done much about turnstile jumping, but they are there. Some of them look at the station that they're patrolling. You do feel better when you see one of them. I'm actually seeing, I live and work, I live in Bayside, I work in Lower Manhattan. I'm noticing less homeless, less rats. The migrants are a bigger problem now than they were in 2017. They are a liability. But I'm also seeing one good thing is new private sector construction, and it doesn't trouble me when a new building is not taller than the nearby buildings. It would upset me if a new building were much taller than the surrounding buildings. So I'm still, in terms of new private, I'm not for public sector construction, but most of the new private sector construction in the last few years, some of it is attractive looking buildings that would look good in good neighborhoods that are being built in actually marginal neighborhoods. I think that's a plus. So I am surprised that people think that things have gotten worse in 6 years. I've noticed that things have gotten a little better in 6 years, in spite of all of our problems with rename.
I will say.
Let's try to keep it to the subject, which is on the budget there as well, if we can. Okay, because some of them she couldn't really answer. It's not her
I mean,
expertise.
it's what the survey respondents said, but I think there is a general. So we were in the field at the end of last year, between October and December. There was negativity, and there was a lot of concern about the economy. We were still recovering from COVID. We were still trying to grapple with what we had gone through. So from our point of view, some of it is real. Some of it is just people are more negative. So they it's like rating on a curve, and except in the opposite direction. We're a little harder probably because we're just sort of. We were hearing about a lot of crime. We were hearing about rats a lot. But I appreciate your comments. Well, anyone who hasn't asked that before we go to... Well, another... Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The housing situation isn't going to improve. January of 2025 when Donald Trump is president. I'll tell you why. The reason is very simple. Instead of hiring 89,000 IRS agents, he's going to hire 89,000 ICE agents, and we're going to send the people back to where they came from. We're going to have all this housing.
Okay, so let's focus on the budget if we can. Since Steve hasn't asked a question yet. Okay, so Steve?
I heard maybe under the false impression or the false narrative that Trump was going to allow the state budget and the state budget to default. He was going to allow California and New York to default, which would put the budget in the hands of the feds. Am I wrong? If the state budget defaults, I say I don't know this stuff, so I'm asking a question. And I heard. So is that true or that's not true? If the state budget defaults, what happens?
Don't know of a case where a state has defaulted, so...
Well, because the feds fund them, right? The feds give them money to keep them afloat. So the story was that Trump was going to stop funding New York State, and then New York State would default, and then that budget would go into the hands of the feds, which would allow the federal government to take away all these small programs and the social programs that we know are poisoning the city.
I don't know about this. The federal government provides all state and local governments all sorts of funding, much of it through formulas and cap block grants. So,
I want to thank Anna for basically her presentation. Certainly, if you would like to, will you stay briefly, or
I'll stay for a few minutes.
Okay, so you can certainly ask your questions a little bit later. She's going to be with us for a while briefly. I'd like to have the candidates come up, please. Okay, we're going to Julie, the Millers, the Weiner, okay, Gonzalo, Gonzalo Duran. David, would you like to come up as well? David Ship is okay. Okay, next time. Okay. Let's see. Now, our club, this is for November. This is November. Okay, I'm going to have the candidates introduce themselves. Now, our club, we welcome anyone who wants to come to the club, okay, regardless of your party affiliation, because we want, basically, as long as you support our values, okay? Let me start, since Kenneth Paek is here the longest, since you're the very first person that came. Ken, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Kenneth Paek. I'm a retired sergeant from New York City Police Department. I retired exactly 14 months ago. I just couldn't do it anymore. Ever since I was a child, my dream was just being a police officer. So I went to John Jay College. I got myself a police science degree. I served 4 years in the military in Japan. And I became a New York City police officer. I loved it. I took a pride. I can contend that because my starting pay was $25,100 at the time. The city didn't want to pay me that much. And I had many opportunities to go different agencies they offered, but I decided to stay. I just want to give you a quick brief. New York City penal law, New York State penal law is like softer than a cheesecake. I put my life on the line. I was at 109 prison. That was my last command as the crime supervisor. I go through Jackie Robinson every day to chasing these guys. I'm I'm putting my life on the line. I'm putting my police officer's life on the line to catch these bad people. And next thing you know, you get locked up for 4 hours and gets relieved. And I didn't see no light in it. I didn't believe that system. So I retired. I still have a lot of gasoline left in me to do the right thing. Again, I'm running for New York State Assembly District 25. My name is Kenneth Paek. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes, I have a primary. June 25. Opponent name is also Kenneth Chu, and my name is Kenneth Paek. P-A-E-K. P as police. Maybe you guys can remember that if you're in my district, please. Thank you. Yes. So south of Flushing, Fresh Meadows, Oakland Gardens, and go all the way up to Queens Community College. Yes, thank you. Yeah, the Bayside. Thank you. I was a police officer. I was a detective, and then my last rank was a sergeant. I was in 5th precinct and started precinct there, and then after 5 years later, I went to emergency service unit. I don't know if you guys know what emergency service unit does. ESU, thank you. I was there for about 9 years. I picked up the rank of detective. I worked in Truck 10. I worked in ESU WMD. I responded to all the hazmat, unknown substance job. Judges get a lot of those, and I had to don like a chemical suits. After that, I got promoted to a sergeant, and then they said, "Hey, why don't you go to 109 precinct? Catching these bad people." It was just, it was just revolving door, basically. It's the recidivism is what's killing our city right now. Just like you said, the asylum seekers, that we have all that money that we're pumping into. That's the money for our senior citizens. That's money for our kids' school. Do something for us first. Put the money back in the community so that I could hire more people. So that we get our business going, everybody, kind of floats up more, but this is not happening. No city or state elected officials saying anything about it, as if there's nothing wrong. Also, another reason I'm running for New York State Assembly is because my kids don't want to move down to Florida. And they want to stay here for like another 30, 40 years. I said, you know what, I'm stuck here. Let me do the right thing, and let me use my background, let me use my experience to make a better rules for ourselves. That's what I do. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Who's the incumbent that you go against?
Neely Rosick. I believe she was the youngest female ever elected in New York State, and she got elected when she was 24 years old. And she held this office for the last 6 terms, and I believe she's won her 7th. But like I said, I believe I have more life experience. There are times like, when I was a police officer, like I'm wondering what's behind the door. You know what I mean? That split-second decisions that I have to make. Thank God, knock on wood, fingers crossed, nothing really happened. But again, like I said, with my background, with my life experience, I could probably do a little bit better. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Kenneth is running in the only Republican primary in the entire city of New York, the 25th Assembly District. So if you're interested in helping someone else at the Republican primary, you'll be his 25th State Assembly race. Next, I'd like to introduce Judge Julie Milner. Okay, would you please?
Thank you so much. I'm not a judge yet. I'm aiming to be one. I want to thank Danny for the kind invitation to come. I want to thank Dr. Jeff and Ying in the back for introducing me to Danny. And also Dr. Jeff gifted me this cool tie. Yes, and I'm not a tie person, but I'm a flag person. I love the flag, I love my country, and I identify as a patriot. And I want to thank Kenneth for your service to this great city. We need more members of service running for office. And I have to let you know I'm a Democrat. So it's like silence. Thank you for not booing, because I do get a lot of that. And people who are Democrats are the ones like giving me a lot of ranting when I knock on their door or go to shake their hand. They're like, "Oh, you're a Democrat?" Blah, 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 blah. I wait till they take a breath and I say, "Yeah, that's why I'm running. I'm going against the Democratic machine." So I appreciate the opportunity. Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and tell you about my candidacy, because you can't come and vote for me, obviously, for our June 25th primary. And I'm not here really to ask for the vote, because I'm not sure if I'm going to make it past the primary, because it's an uphill battle to get past the machine candidates. And you guys know, because so many of your really good candidates got kicked off the ballot.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. That's not democracy.
No.
And by the grace of God, I got on the ballot, and I was surprised because it's really hard to get those signatures. And they have all the resources, all the money in the world to get all the signatures that they want. And they have all the resources to go after you to keep you from being on the ballot. And thankfully I had enough where they didn't even challenge mine. They could have, but they didn't. They let me go. But that doesn't mean I'm out of the woods, because they actually used the Queen's Eagle to do a 2-page hit on me. And I'm just like a little old lawyer, a school teacher, education professor, running for an entry-level court position. But here I am on the front page, full color, 2 full pages of a hit. They went through my Twitter account. So some of it's true, some of it's made up, some of it's like bald-faced lie. But, you know, I'm a lawyer. Why don't you sue them for defamation? Because they use little words like seemingly, and it appears that. And I'm running for office, so there's a higher standard you have to make. And who's got the money and the time to sue them? I got an election to run. I got a campaign to do. So thank you. So I wanted to tell you why I'm running. Year after year, I go to vote in the primary, and it says, vote for any of the following 4 judges. There's only 4 on the list. Vote for any 2. There's only 2 on the list. I said, this is not an election, it's a selection. Our judges are selected in backroom deals. The Democratic machine are using these judicial seats as party favors to dole out to party hacks. And enough is enough. You know, I look around, I see what's going on. Other Democrats like me, we look around, we're angry, our voices aren't being heard, and we got to do something. So I'm running, I'm letting you know that, you know, it's time for a change. There's a lot of Democrats like me. There's a lot of Democrats that are going to flip red. So you guys have a chance, hang in there. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
And for Stephen Weiner, who's running for 74th judge, this is probably the most important race for us Republicans in the county of Queens. Stephen.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Danny. I want to thank the board members, everyone who's here. That was amazing questions by people who obviously have a lot of knowledge. And the presentation on the city budget, on the future of the city is really important. And my name is Stephen Weiner. It's a privilege to be here. I am a Republican. I'm a Republican running for a judgeship. Now, and a club member, and yes, a member of this club. And I also love the Medical Freedom Party and Telegram channel, which I avidly read and I really enjoy. So where am I coming from? I'm going for the position of surrogate judge of Queens County. And many of you may not have heard of it. There may be some of you who've been in the surrogate court. I guess by a show of hands, how many people have heard of the surrogates court before? Okay, so there's a lot of people here. Basically, there's 2 things they say are certainties: death and taxes. The surrogate court, for the most part, deals with death, and it deals with wills, estates. It's not a court that deals with crime or immigration or other things of that kind. It has a specific mission. And I'm running because over 25 years, I've done that kind of work. I'm a wills, trust, and estates attorney. That's what I do. I don't do the other kinds of law. I'm a specializer in that area. Estate litigation is part of my background. In the very beginning of my career, I was a trial attorney, which is also a good thing in Syria because trials occasionally do come up in the Syria court, and I have that background too. Scores of arbitrations, trials. And I raise this because it's important when you look at the candidates for surrogate, make sure that the candidate you vote for is an experienced trust, wills, and estate attorney. I'm going to leave it to the press to bring out what's going to be happening in this race because usually you won't hear a statement like that. You'll just assume people running for an office are people who actually have had experience in the type of work that involves. This time may be different. And this office, why Danny said it's such an important race, is that the surrogate court has something to do with the Democratic Party. It's sort of a core stronghold for the Democratic Party because the surrogate of Queens appoints and can remove something called the public administrator. The public administrator deals when people die without a will and there's nobody there to handle the estate, and somebody calls up and says, hey, there's a condo here and it's been abandoned or something like that. This public administrator swoops in and with the cooperation of the surrogates court, they go and they'll take that condo and they'll sell it. And they'll pick an attorney to sell that condo. And they'll have an attorney and somebody else do the taxes. And they'll have appraisers. And every one of these people somehow is connected to the Democratic Party. How did that happen? Maybe coincidence. But if the Democratic Party loses, if they lose the surrogate race, and we have somebody, I'm dedicated only to doing the best administration, efficient, fair, open, totally transparent. I'd love to have the Citizens Budget Committee come in and look at the workings of the office and lay it all out to everybody. It'd be great to publish it all. That's the way it should be, and it should not be a stronghold of patronage. That's my mission. I want it to be a clean win, and it would be the biggest shock to the Democratic Party of Queens in at least 50 years to lose this stronghold because it's so financially central. And there's reports of a primary. I'm not in a primary. I'm unopposed as a Republican candidate. I'm unopposed as a conservative candidate, and I'm probably going to be on a third one, common sense. But the Democrats are actually having a fight. The county organization has a candidate, and there's a challenger. And the challenger is raised, the last I saw was $176,000. It may be much more by now. Why is that money being put up? Again, because of the nature of this office, that it affects so many important things. I don't think that when people die, their belongings should be divided up to support a political organization.
Thank you.
That's not the way we should live, and I will pledge to you that's not the way it's going to be when I win this position. And I thank you.
Countywide?
Countywide, yes. This is all of Queens. So I have here my campaign manager, Howard Brickman is here. I have one of my key supporters, John Ward is here. We all need support because it's the whole county of Queens. I'm going to have to get all over Queens, from Far Rockaway up to Whitestone, from Sunnyside, where I live, over to Belleville. I got to be everywhere and anywhere. And the Democrats will put money hand over fist in this race. So I have to counter that by, there's one last thing. There's a great line. I just love this line. Maybe my favorite Democrat line. It was a Harry Truman line. They said, "Give them hell, Harry." And I'll just end with this. And Harry Truman, they said to him, "You're going to give them hell." And he said, "I'm not going to give them hell. I'm going to tell them the truth, and they will think it's hell." That's it.
So let me introduce you the person that's going to be running against Richie Torres, Congressman Gonzalo Duran, and he's running in the 15th Congressional District. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for the warm reception. I honestly wasn't expecting to see so many familiar faces, so I'm glad that I've seen quite a few today. So once again, my name is Gonzalo Duran, and I'm running for Congressional District 15 in the Bronx. Since there's many that I don't know, I'm just going to give a little background information on myself. So I was born, raised, educated, and worked my whole life in the Bronx, minus my 8 years in the military. I was a United States Marine Sergeant, and I did 1 tour in Iraq. So thank you. I currently work as the Chief Executive Officer for Devil Dog USA, which is a veteran nonprofit. I've been working there for the last 10 years, doing almost every work imaginable with every demographic that you can think about, coming from civic engagements to housing to homeless to, once again, everything you can think about. I'm very proud of that work for the last 10 years. I'm also the Vice Chairman for the Bronx County Conservative Party, the District Leader for the 79th Assembly District, a chaplain. I'm the host of Vet Talk, which is broadcast on BronxNet, Manhattan, and Brooklyn, which I'm trying to get Queens soon. And I'm a radio host as well. And lastly, a journalist for the Bronx Daily. On my spare time on the weekends, I volunteer mentoring at-risk teens. Now, when it comes to the Conservative Party, I'm going to speak on some of the things that I've worked on. I want to make it clear that I'm working towards conservatism, so that includes the Republican and the Conservative Party. When it comes to the Conservative Party, I've helped increase the party by over 15%, and I think I'm going to double that this year. I expect to hit my 90% fill rate for our county positions. Right now we're at 85%, which I've spent the last 2 years trying to help build up. And my work towards helping not only myself as a candidate, but also other individuals move up the ranks as well. So this year we aim to fill 21 legislative positions, and I'm glad to say that we filled 18. Now that means petitioning, gathering people, helping them do public speaking, etc. Giving them opportunities so they can speak to the masses and not just, on the corner and yelling. We need, individuals like this club, organizations to help us build up our reputation and get out there and face to face with other constituents and petitioners, etc., volunteers and all that, especially funding, which is the biggest problem. Besides that, why I'm running for a congressional district, the last 10 years of my work has been more city-state work, but I believe that a lot of the work that I've been doing can be expanded to the federal level, or at least be positioned in the better to help downwards for the communities, to the individuals in the city, and especially the Bronx, which the 15th congressional district is the poorest district in the nation. Not only that, but the incumbent that's in right now has been in leadership for over, I think this is his 3rd term. Before that, he was the city council district for the 15th, which he was also in charge of the poorest district. So somebody who continuously has not improved in political prowess, I believe should be replaced. I believe leadership like myself and the work that I've done proves that somebody like me can take the position and change it, make work happen, and better the community itself. I'd like to leave off with a few things. The work that I've done in the last year to include penning articles on individuals across the Bronx, especially the South Bronx, on soon-to-be President Trump. Also, I thought I was going to get a bigger one from that for the Republican Party. I also penned a letter inviting Trump to the South Bronx a couple months ago. I'm proud to say that on Sunday I'll be doing a briefing. This is the announcement that I was trying to make earlier. I'll be doing a briefing on individuals to help, basically a committee to bring Trump to the Bronx, South Bronx, and to help with voter registration. Now, the briefing technically and personally is because he would be coming down to my district on Thursday, next Thursday. So I'm very proud of that. And if you want more information on that, I'll be happy to share it. Yes, it'll be in my district in the South Bronx.
What time?
I'll give everybody information later, but to finish this part. With that being said, you know, a lot of the work that I've done, I've been doing it for 10 years. I've had my website at www.gonzaloduran.nyc with all my platforms, all the work that I've done, social media, publicly. I don't do the things that I'm saying, hiding it or anything. I say it, I do it face forward. If you see the work that I'm saying with Trump, it didn't happen just because I accidentally walked into it. My face is on the poster right next to his, trying to get his name out there. The articles that I wrote is trying to get the people in the word of mouth for the people. Just to be fair, I also interviewed Democrats. Now, they were willing to yell out how much they are for Biden, but none of them would go on public record to say why they would do it. That says a lot right there. That being said, you know, I'm happy to entertain any questions. I'll be here until the end. And if there's a few individuals here that know me and the work that I've been doing, and I'm sure they'll be able to vouch for it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, he's in Bronx. He's running against Richie Torres. Next, we have Dwayne Moore. Okay, he's running in Southeast Queens against Alicia Hyman, State Assembly District number 29.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Moore. I'm running for New York State Assembly in District 29. That encompasses Jamaica Queens, from Jamaica, St. Albans, Rosedale, Laurelton, and Hollis. And the reason I'm running is because my background is in education. I work as a 9th grade English teacher, college counselor, and oftentimes when we talk about the numbers and different things about the budget, we often forget that everything we're doing is really for our kids, and hopefully the future is better for them. And we know that right now it's not. I feel like New York City is going down the wrong path, and we see it with our eyes. We see it. Our eyes do not deceive us. I think politicians constantly keep doing this Houdini act where they don't want us to believe what we're seeing. We see all of the closed businesses, meaning that every closed business we see is a small business owner that doesn't succeed, generational wealth loss. We see all of the boarded up, the graffiti, the garbage. We see the influx of migrants. Now, back in the day when the city was being built, there was things called city planning, to where you're building each area for the population. How do you just justify cramming 170,000 people into any crevice in the city? And then cramming over 10,000 migrant kids who don't even speak English into an already overcrowded public school system that is already under-resourced, already that 36% of black kids read on grade level, less than 50% of New York City kids read on grade level. It's a 5-alarm fire. And my family goes generations deep into this country. So I understand the history and the complexities. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I criticize America because I love her and I see her potential. The United States, with all the difficulties that we've been through, is still a beautiful country. This is a beautiful city. We built this city rapidly. Overnight, it seemed like cities rose from the ground. New York City, Detroit, Oakland, go all around Atlanta. It's where the world came here and marveled at the massive projects that we undertook. Now look at our infrastructure. The roads are horrible. We have the same trains since the 1980s on the tracks. And we're spending 100 and whatever billions of dollars, and where is it going? How can we say that we're improving the lives of our kids? How can we say that more people are going to be able to take care of their parents? And now with the city of yes, they don't even believe in home ownership. Home ownership was the essential part of the American dream, to be able to own wealth. If you don't believe in that, you don't believe in America. So if you want to tear down our single families and you want to build up these large things, well, you know, that's what communism is. I studied abroad in China. You don't see homes, you see all of these large buildings. And now we're going to be telling people, hey, you know, pay $3,000 a month to live in a 400 square foot box. Where's the idea in family? Look at our culture. When you see the kids on the street, these look like the people that are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, the people that are going to competently be able to raise families. So we're here in this room because ultimately the United States has came back from
tough spots before, and we will come back again. We will not fail. We have too many people in here that love this country. But we have to make sure this time more than ever, you support the Republican candidates and you get voters out there. Local politics is really what's doing this. When you're looking at the ballot, you should go bottom up. When you look at the roads, when you look at the schools, the speed cameras, they're trying to lower the speed limits from 25 to 20 so then they could just get in our pockets even more, drain us with taxes and regulations, also they could fund migrants and incentivize illegal immigration. It is insane. The politicians that are elected don't believe in America, they don't love America, and they're not doing anything to improve America, to where they would rather subsidize illegal immigration and flood the country with people as opposed to take care of their own citizens. So now, more than ever, we need help, we need donations, we need you to go out and vote, you need to be energized so we can take this country back, because we deserve more, New York deserves more, and together we can make this country great again. Thank you so much.
There's another candidate who has not spoken before this club there. He's from Brooklyn, David Shepiavili. Would you like to say something?
No, not today.
Not today? But at least
Say hi, say hi, say hi. Come on. Just come on and say hi. What district you're running at?
Okay, like I said, moving on now to the candidates that have spoken in the clubs before. We have Jonathan Rinaldi, who's running against Andrew Hevesy.
Hello, you. Yes, hello, me. That's right. Thank you. I know y'all haven't seen me in a while, but I was, I'm a non-endorsed Republican candidate. Because what ended up happening was that it's shameful what happened in this club. I'm just going to tell you straight up. You had Tom Mitch, who was running for Congress, didn't carry signatures for all the people that were under him. Danny Mayo, I don't see the same enthusiasm for those Bayside Republicans over here holding petitions for Yighton. Where were you guys when Danny needed to get on the ballot? I want to call everybody out on that because that's nonsense. Anyways, I made sure that I got on the ballot by knocking on the doors because that's the only way to do it. And I really couldn't care less what anyone thinks about me or what county thinks about me, because what I have in my hand right here is a list of the bills, like 86761, which allows certain minors to consent to certain medical and hospital services without parental consent, sponsored by Andrew Hevesy. Bill S1531 relates to adult vaccination reporting requirements, mandatory vaccine database. I also have Bill 82676, provides treatment for sexually transmitted diseases to minors without parental consent. I got Bill 82125, relates to limiting exemptions from immunizations, including Pfizer, Moderna, all that stuff that's been recalled. Bills S624 requires immunization of certain post-secondary students for mandatory you get shots to go to college. This is what we're fighting against. Pride comes before the fall. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you have a problem with me, but I'm not going anywhere, and I'll get on the ballot every single time, and I don't need the endorsement of the party. Beyond that, just like you said, Dwayne, this country's built from the bottom up. Okay? That's why local politics is the most important, because this is how we can affect the most amount of change. And that's basically it. I wasn't around for a while because I focused to make sure that I got on the ballot, which I did. And aside from this, talking about City of Yes, because I've been with Deanna, with David, we've been out there. We had rallies at the migrant shelter. Nobody showed up because I don't fundraise. I didn't get Tony Nunziato to show up at my rally where me, Deanna, and David shut down the migrants from coming to Q Motor Inn. That's right. Where were the common sense candidates when we were having rallies over there and shutting the migrants down? Because that's what we did. They didn't care. That's what we did, Dave. Remember we called up Vicky? Remember we called them? What did they tell me? So you can take Yighton's petitions and take them to Vicky's club. How about that?
I got a question. David. I heard, and I want to know if it's true, that the GOP Queens chairman, Tony Nunziato, he was down there. He took Cara Castronovo and Josh Eisen and challenged their signatures because he's afraid of those two candidates. He's running the GOP-nominated detective from Long Island that financially supported Letitia James. How disgusting is that? How disgusting is it to go and not want 3 Republican candidates on the ballot, and they just want the endorsed candidate?
Who is she?
Who is who?
Somebody he's endorsing.
That
Man.
is
Not a woman,
It's a man. It's a detective, Saprioni from Long Island. He donated to Letitia James. It's disgusting. You have your own GOP Queens chairman sabotaging the whole Queens GOP party. It's disgusting.
Thanks, Dave.
Disgusting.
And you know what? When I called county and I said, hey, you don't got a candidate running in 28,
They don't care.
told me to kick rocks.
They didn't want
and
one.
Danny didn't make the ballot. Juan Pagan didn't make the ballot. Where's the Mitch? Where was he carrying petitions for all you guys? He let you all down on a presidential race. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that failure. And we all got to step up and do what we got to do. And when it comes to the city of Yes, when I know because I've been to the hearings for the public housing, all they're doing is they're overloading the welfare system to crash the budget on purpose. All City of Yes is to make us pay for the illegal aliens to come live in our house.
Absolutely.
And then when we can't pay our mortgages and we get evicted, right? Who's going to get our houses? You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about. So we have to oppose these bills to take away parental rights, to give sex change operations, vaccines to our kids without parental consent. And I swear to God that Hevesy is going to have the hardest fight of his life because you know me and I don't care. And I'm going to take it to them and anybody else that stands in the way of our kids. I promise you that.
Another candidate, thank you very much, Jonathan. Another candidate that has spoken before, but would you like to say something? Brendan Castro from the 30th State Assembly District.
I don't know how I follow up on that, first of all. Very, very well done, man. First of all, to any of you who haven't met me prior, my name is Brendan Castro. I'm a candidate for State Assembly District 30 right here in Queens. I'm going up against Stephen Raga. I'm not sure if any of you know who he is. It's not really that big of a deal. But, go, great, perfect. Vote for me. Thank you. There you go, come on. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who spoke today. They said very, very good things. I've met many of you many times. I've met Jonathan before, Dwayne before. I met you all. Stephen, actually, I just got off the phone with. This is my first time actually seeing you, but there we go. There we go. But yeah, so essentially, why I decided to run. I was originally going to run in 2026. I didn't really have like a vision for this. I said, well, I'm only 24, so I have like a lot of time left where like I can actually decide to run. But I was waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to go for my seat here, but then there was nobody was going up. And I strongly believe that we should always have candidates going up, no matter what, no matter how unlikely or how likely the seat actually is, because that's how we make change.
Amen.
That's right. And we have to be everywhere. We have to be speaking to people, even those who we do not agree with. Like, I really don't care what type of crowd it is. I'll speak to anybody. I don't care what anyone says about any of the candidates or about anybody here. I'll speak to them. I will go to their events. That's just what you have to do. You have to speak to every single person possible. And I feel like a lot of the mistakes that previous candidates have done is that they haven't really been everywhere. They haven't, even at the areas that are most blue. Granted, you don't want to be stupid and awake some of the monsters there, but still, like, you want to actually make an impact, show the people here that we're not here to play politics with their lives. We're actually here to make a change, which I'm sick and tired of. They're playing politics with our lives. We have to be there to actually speak up for those that we feel have not been heard. And I agree with you as well. There are a lot of Democrats there that are also fed up. And I can guarantee you that there's a lot who live by me too that are registered that way specifically so that they could vote out the far leftists. And there's a lot of us out there. The problem is that we have to show them a reason why to vote the other way for once. We cannot have people who are quiet, those who are not willing to speak everywhere, those who are not willing to make themselves embarrassed or do something so that way that we can actually make a change and show them, give them a reason why, hey, we have a candidate. Oh, he's actually talking about the things that I care about for once. Maybe I'll give him a shot. Instead of just seeing our name going to the ballot box, they don't know who we are. Half of them don't even know who their assembly candidate is or whoever their representative is. But they especially don't know who we are. And that's also because they don't want to, well, we get no press. They don't even want to say our names. That's our job. It's our job, it's our leaders' job to make sure that not only do the candidates get on the actual ballots, but to make sure that their voices are heard, they get opportunities like these to actually speak to people, and that we make the most out of every opportunity that comes toward our way. And that's why, with the least that I could do here, is at least bring to light a lot of those very same concerns. a lot of my campaign platform, I really feel like we have to show them a brand new vision for once. A vision where people my age, people coming out of high school, college, can actually have enough money into their bank account so that they don't have to rely on the federal government for help. We have to show them a vision where they can actually want to get married, buy a house, have kids. And coming from my age, people my age cannot even envision that dream. They have no idea what that even means. You wanna raise $20,000 back then, try to buy a house, maybe raise a family there. Fair enough, but now 80K, 90K, good luck. I cannot afford that. I can just tell you straight up. So we have to propose a vision that actually has that can actually set that forward and not the same BS over and over and over and over again. If you grab any single Democrat flyer, it's gonna see the same thing on there. From 2008, and I have some in my house. I don't know how I have them that old, but I was like cleaning up my room myself. 2008, 2012, 2018, all the same thing on there. Affordable housing. Well, how has that really been going for us? That really has not been going well. But they can get away with those very same types of words and marketing there because they don't have someone there to challenge them. And we have to be also very smart. We have to play their game. We have a lot of things that are not in our favor here, but there's a lot of things that we have. The fact that we do not get press, people do not want to talk about us, means that there's a lot of things that we can say and that we can actually speak to people and we can tell the truth. That's such a novel concept, but we can actually be honest and we can actually bring to light a lot of the concerns that they're not allowed to say. They're not only walking on eggshells, they're walking on mines. If they say something wrong, it's just going to blow up, and then they're probably going to lose their county endorsement, party endorsement, whatever. But we do not have that. Granted, there are always going to be problems, but still, we have the advantage in many other ways. But we have to have very competent candidates who are actually willing to play that game and be very, very strong. And so, again, thank you all for hearing me out here. I have a couple of my palm cards right on the very back there. Thank you very much. One more thing. Can I get a Let's Go Brandon? Let's go Brandon! Who has a question? Sorry, pardon me. Yes, how are you doing?
I would just like to say about this young man, Brandon, he's the future of our party.
Amen.
Now, win, lose, or draw, he should run again and take advantage of the name recognition that he's building up right now. He's doing a great job of it.
So, president.
Candidates like, I don't want to say how old you are, maybe you want to tell everybody, but he's got a good 40 years ahead of him. Okay, some of the other people sitting on that dais say I got another 40 years also. So don't quit, okay? If you get knocked on the canvas, get right back up. That shows you what kind of character we have. And that's it. And for all of you else, people who are not running, attend these Republican meetings. Find out about them, come and attend them. Because even if you have no idea of how I can help, somebody at one of these meetings will help, might answer that question for you.
Thank you.
One last thing very fast too before I let the other candidates speak. Yes, I am here for the long term. So whether I win or lose, we want to cause a huge dent so that's that much more likely in 2026, 28, 2030, going forward. I have the rest of my life to do that. I want to help a lot of the other candidates here. We have a very hard time where Democrats, they will be assembled, they'll be helping each other out, they'll have people constantly, they'll get the signatures they need within a week. They can snap their fingers and they can get the funding. But if we actually are together, so that we have a powerful slate, we have a competent slate, then that will change a lot of things. It's about the long-term play. Trust me, there is hope. There is a lot of hope. All right, that's it.
Thank you very much, President. Now, we had two more candidates that spoke before. I don't know, Stephen Wayne, you want to say something? Juan Pagan, you want to say something? Okay, well, another time.
Juan. Jesus is coming.
Good evening, everyone. So be patient. My English language is not very well, so. My name is Stephen Wang. 20 years ago, I fled China, come to the United States. First impression, American, different China. Here, little animal, not for little people, and sky is blue. Clouds is white. So peaceful. So I'm feeling the release. And 11 years ago, I participated into Price. Price give me a new life, and Price, American changed my life. So, 7 years ago, I get a resident permit, also called a green card. So, thank you. 2 years ago, I become to U.S. citizen. Thank you. But I see the American is sick. I want to do the standing, so change the American. 1 year ago, I decided to run office. So, and Medical Freedom Party, Steve Greenman. They are helping me another, so I appreciate it. So. And then this year, my senator opposition by the CCP out for Republican line. So, but it doesn't matter. I will be continue fighting for freedom. Thank you, everyone.
Now, don't forget we have a 50-50 raffle table there, several prizes. If you're interested in that, please go up, buy some tickets. Let's see. Juan, so you want to say something before I turn over the last speaker? Any questions?
I'll be very, very brief. I just, my first run for office, I said this before, it's 2006, we're 2024, okay? And it's because I love this country.
Thank you.
I love America. My grandfather fought in World War I. My father, combat Korean War veteran, and my brother is a Vietnam veteran. I never joined the military, but being a candidate for office is like being in the military, because we're fighting an enemy within, okay? And we have to keep going. And Brandon, you're 24 years old. Man, I started running for office when I was in my 40s, man. You're going to do okay, man. You're going to make it. Just keep going forward, okay? And Gonzalo, a young man there, Dwayne, picking on the young people. Oh, Paek, right? Us older ones, right? Let's be the role model for these young people. Let's keep going forward, all right? Because, yeah, look, 2006 till now, I got knocked off the ballot, I was criticized, I was cut down to pieces. I'm still here. And they hate it. That's okay. That's right? Okay? So that's it. And being a candidate is hard work, okay? This is why we need you, supporters, okay? Whether it's giving $10 or whatever. Be out there, support us, help us to make it, okay? And one last thing I'm going to say is that 2024, this is it. If we don't win from Trump on down to Brandon and everyone in between, it's not going to be America anymore. Really. And I hate to sound gloomy and doom and all that kind of stuff, but look, this is our year to fight back, to fight hard, all right, to make the sacrifices that we need to do. Let's make it happen. Candidates are here. We're willing to take the brunt. We're willing to take whatever, 2-page hit pieces. All kinds of stuff is going to happen, all right? But we're going to keep going forward. So we need you to support us, please. All right, God bless America.
Before we turn over the questions for the audience to ask our candidates, let me just give one more time our presidential candidate for Namibia, Jeremia.
Yes, I'm Jeremia from Kaambo. I'm very thankful. I would like to give a word of gratitude to all of you and Republican for allowing me and giving me this opportunity. And I'm one of Donald Trump fans. I like him, I like his policy, I like how so far he's been progressing, but anyway, we all go through problems. To come back to my rally, one thing that has inspired me, America is one of the great countries that I know and I hear about. And I've seen it itself, but you always go through ups and downs. And I will, all you gotta do, don't give up. It's that thing that also have inspired me to stand up and say, at least while you people are fighting here, I have also to try and grab somewhere and hold on. And the corruption has also, we all have common problems. The same corruption that is going here is going over there on the ground. So I need all support, funding and all for my rally, and I wish everybody all the best. Let's unite. United we stand, divided we fall.
How was New Jersey, Jeremiah? How was New Jersey?
New Jersey?
Yeah,
it was very great. I had we had one of the very greatest rally ever. It was my first time, and I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so let me open up the floor and ask any candidates any questions like David.
My name is David Abraham. I'm sorry I came late. I'm the vice president of this club. You know, in 1917, when the Russian Revolution started, there was a lot of battles amongst the revolutionaries, different groups, but who's going to win. But just a couple of months before that, Lenin, who was in exile in Germany, he bemoaned that the revolution is never going to happen in my lifetime. So even though we get frustrated sometimes by what happens to all of us, what happens to our candidates, what happens to our way of life, what happens to Republican candidates, never ever give up, because believe me, you never know when the revolution is going to come, and when it's going to come, we're all going to be ready. All right? Thank you very much.
Question for candidates. Kathy.
I just want to make a statement.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So a friend of many of ours, Elizabeth Santelli, I've been spending a good bit of time with. She's ill, she got cancer, and she just wants to say hello to all her friends here.
So, any questions for our candidates? Go ahead.
A lot of school kids are getting stabbed. I want to know how you feel about metal detectors possibly, because I don't want to see any more kids getting stabbed in schools.
Anybody getting
well, he and I were both school teachers, and I was in the school where we had metal detectors. And let me tell you, on a weekly basis, they were getting knives, tasers, a gun maybe every 2 or 3 months, and they never called the police. They never called the police. They just confiscated it, put it in a safe somewhere, didn't report it. The kid came in. We had gang activity, drug dealing in front of me while I was teaching history. They would pull the fire alarm so they could go out and have their fights with their weapons stashed outside around the school. It was bad. And but you know what? My thing was that they're still coming to school. I haven't lost them yet. I haven't lost them yet. And I'm a mother. I have 5 children. So I took that love and I gave it to the children that really needed it. And I stayed after school with them. And I bought them pizza. That's why they came for the pizza. We did literacy. We did literacy. I taught them how to read, how to fill out application. And we all have to be mothers and fathers for the children. They are lost. We have a whole lost generation. So yeah, we need the metal detectors, but we need love. We need parenting. And if they don't have parenting in the home, we got to be the parents. So everybody, please make a difference in a child's life.
I just want want to say it brings back bad memories. I grew up in the Bronx, and I had the experience in 6th grade of having a knife under my throat and having jumped down a flight of stairs. And the thing that's so sad about this is that I was talking to a friend. He ended up in a homeless shelter. It was very sad. And he said that the city has metal detectors, I think, in homeless shelters. And what happens is that ceramic knives are brought in. So you come up with something, it sounds great. But then, if the problem is it's a cultural rot, I think that Mr. Moore should speak this more. The fact that people have lost the faith in God, a faith in higher values, that children are taught to just, whatever, kill each other, and nobody's giving them anything to change that. It's deeper. I just think we gotta go deeper. That's all I'm saying.
I was a ninth grade English teacher, and also I went to Springfield Gardens High School. We had metal detectors there. Metal detectors can work temporarily, but it's not going to end all of it. There's still going to be things that slip through. Really, you mentioned it's a cultural decline. It seems to be a decline in the values of family, and I try to mention this very often. But a lot of kids are coming from broken homes. And there is not going to be enough teachers that can fix that, because if you're not getting the right foundation at home, it's going to be prevalent in the classroom. And then when there's no civics and there's no trades for kids to actually learn real skills, we essentially have daycares, very expensive profit-making daycares, where we send our kids off to and very little no learning gets done. And then we push them through so then we could get them loans to go to college, or push them to eventually to go to prison. So there needs to be a reimagining of the education system. All of the new technology in the world, why are we not investing in AI and technology to be better with facilitating in our classrooms? The era of lecturing for an hour in front of students is over. The attention span now for average kids is about 3 seconds. So how are you expecting the kid to sit there and learn? And then if young men, 1960, only 7% of young men had a college degree. Most of them working on the cars, most of them working on building things. And right now we have a whole bunch of young men out there roaming the streets with nothing to do. So the metal detectors and getting more security in schools is definitely a short-term solution, but I think, as you mentioned, we have to go much larger than that, because we're having lost generation after lost generation that's no worse than their parents, and this country can't exist on the current trajectory.
Thanks, sir.
I just want to say one thing. In terms of, you mentioned children. I have a whole book here that is bills by this assembly to sterilize and to end an entire generation of people with cancers and with sex change operations. This is what we're fighting against. These bills. I don't want my kid walking into a metal detector. Who's going to pay for that? I don't want prisoner training in schools. Just like Dwayne said, we need civics. My son's going to study to be a pilot. There's no way in hell am I going to send him to college to learn liberal arts. But the real enemy is here. It's the bills, it's the pharmaceutical companies. It's not the kids in the class. And making them walk and making them learn how to be in line and making them learn how to empty their pockets is against our fundamental values, and I will never support anything like that. Thank you.
Gonzalo, you want to say something? So to answer your question correctly, I am pro having more seats in schools. The reason at the end of my introduction, I mentioned volunteering as a mentor for his teens. I went over 2 years ago. I went around my district and asked what's the biggest problem, and it's not my opinion. These are the statistics that they told me. Was they believed that the youth didn't have anything to do, so they wanted more activity for them. So over the weekends and throughout the week, I mentor 2 to 4 teens every 8 weeks in rotations, and shows them how shadowing somebody like me going into City Hall for interviews, dealing with other CEOs, community members, nonprofit work, volunteering at shelters, etc., to see and see the opportunities that they're out there for them. Every person had an answer that I believe it needs to be all encompasses to help the individuals and the youth. I haven't cracked the system yet, but I've been doing my best to try.
Unfortunately, it's 10:33. I am going to basically end the meeting. All of them have drawn a ticket. This for a 50-50. Would you please read the name on your ticket? And the name that's read, just go to the table, take anything you like in the back.
Steven.
Yes. Okay.
When? Just when?
Steve, just take something. Point of order, sir.
SS?
Take anything. Mr. President, point of order.
That's you, SS.
Oh, that's me, yeah.
SS.
Congrats.
I'll take that. I don't want it anymore. No, this isn't one of my own books. This is something else.
I will reading that. I will go read
Point of order, sir.
PNC,
okay? One.
John Feltman.
John Feldman, okay, and for the 50-50, we have $105 tonight to be drawn by Weiner, so.
I wear it to work.
Okay, $105, thank you very much. One more. Stand or walk. Anything on the table? Okay, do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Point of order, sir.
Okay.
Point of order.
All right, go ahead, so your point of order is?
I have waited patiently and respectfully to be recognized by the chair. I want each and every one of you to tell your friends this is the best meeting in New York City. I want you to come back and bring people to this room. This is the best room in New York City. Excuse me, folks. I've been respectful of every speaker this evening. I would hope you could extend me that courtesy. All right, shut, Jim. Let him speak. I don't like quiet. Everything that is contributed by Kaambo is them. We must unite as Republicans. For those of you who wish to castigate Mr. Sapperstone as a person who contributed $1,000 to Letitia James, I will bet you my house that both the gentleman who passed the Latinos and Mr. Trump have donated thousands more, if not millions of dollars to other candidates. Mr. Sapperstone is deeply rooted in the community. He grew up not even 2 miles south of this building. And if you want to respect every candidate, if you want to look at the background of the people who stand in this room and do nothing but add venom, you will find that they should be ashamed of themselves. We have to see him talking about his children. This guy's responsible for about 15 kids, and that is why the Republicans do not let him run. I will be back. I go to more meetings in Queens than anybody other than Steve. And yes, I will be back. Did anybody here give a candidate money tonight? Did anybody here give a candidate money tonight? Will I be the only one? Thank you, my friend Danny.
Yeah. We will work together. We will work together. I'm going to get all your home site location, and then we're going to send out the poster.
That's what we work together. That's my number, so text me your number.
Yeah. Okay.
That's serious. Like, I will call you. I like it. Thank you. All right, man. I'll see
I can't tell them.
Where's Carol? You don't mind, do you? I think the young guy Dwayne could use it more than anybody else.
Yes.
We're gonna win.
There was a party in my life. Next meeting, I'll send
Right. I never went to a therapist since that back attack at one of our meetings. But I stretch. I do. I go out for long walks. You know, and it is what it is. Until I tell you, I'm in Jamaica Hospital. I can't make the next meeting.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
Yeah, thanks. I'll leave it slow down.